All right, today we're going to break down the AI lawsuit that literally sent a shockwave through the entire tech industry. So here's a crazy question for you. How can you win a landmark legal argument and still face total, complete ruin? Well, that's exactly what happened to the AI company Anthropic. They won this huge legal fight, one that could have defined the future of AI. But that win, it pushed them right to the edge of collapse. Let's get into how that happened.
Okay, so the story starts with what sounds like a sci-fi movie plot, a massive legal battle over the very soul of AI and copyright.
So, back in August 2024, a group of authors went after Anthropic, you know, the company behind the AI model Claude. Their claim was pretty simple. Anthropic had basically strip-mined their books to train its AI, and they didn't get permission or a single penny. This was it. This was the big showdown over fair use in the age of AI.
And you gotta understand, Anthropic was not alone here. Oh no, this was an all-out legal war. You had authors, huge news publishers like the New York Times, artists, music labels, all of them suing the biggest names in AI. We're talking OpenAI, Meta, you name it. The entire industry was basically on trial.
But just when you think this is all about high-tech legal theory, the Anthropic case takes a wild turn. We're moving away from a lofty debate and straight into a very, very old-fashioned crime. Now, Anthropic's lawyers, they were ready. They had this really sophisticated defense all lined up. Their argument was that an AI learning from books is fair use, right? It's a transformative act, kind of like how a student reads a ton of books in a library to learn how to write, not to just copy them. And this wasn't just Anthropic's argument. The entire AI industry was banking on this. And then the bombshell. During the discovery phase, it came out that Anthropic hadn't just used books. They had used these enormous datasets pulled directly from shadow libraries. And that's just a nice way of saying notorious pirate websites, like Library Genesis. Suddenly, this wasn't some theoretical debate anymore. This was about building a billion-dollar AI on a foundation of straight-up stolen goods. This is where Judge William Alsop steps in, and with what I can only call a stroke of judicial genius, he hands Anthropic a victory that was, at the same time, a complete death sentence. Okay, so check this out. The judge's ruling was like a perfectly set trap split right down the middle. On one hand, a massive win for the entire AI industry. He actually agreed that the process of an AI training on books, that is fair use. But, and this is a huge but, on the other hand, a devastating loss for Anthropic. He ruled that the source of their data, the actual act of downloading millions of books from pirate sites, was just simple, direct copyright infringement. Boom. And his logic for the fair use part was pretty powerful. He basically said the AI was learning to create something new, not just to copy the old stuff. It's a really elegant argument, right? But here's the thing. Ultimately, it didn't matter. That piracy ruling had already unleashed a financial weapon of mass destruction.
And that weapon has a name: statutory damages. Now, under U.S. copyright law, this is where things get crazy. You can be fined up to $150,000 for every single work you infringe. Now, just think back. Anthropic used datasets with millions of pirated books.
So, go ahead and do the math. Legal experts ran the numbers, and the potential liability for Anthropic could top, wait for it, $900 billion. No, that is not a typo. $900 billion. I mean, the company was facing a penalty larger than the GDP of most countries on Earth.
And it gets worse. The company's own CFO basically came out and said, look, we can't even afford the $5 billion bond just to appeal the case, let alone pay some massive judgment. A trial? That was completely off the table. It would have been corporate suicide. They had no choice. They had to settle. And that settlement, it did more than just save Anthropic. It basically created a brand new set of rules for the entire AI industry. And not through actual law, but through sheer financial terror. The fallout from this was immediate. It created what lawyers call a commercial precedent. It sent a crystal clear message to everyone. Forget about debating fair use. The lawyers for the plaintiffs now had a proven playbook. Just attack the source of the data. And just like that, overnight, the legal war shifted from how data is used to where the heck it came from. And the result? A complete transformation of the entire industry. The Wild West era, just scraping data from wherever you could find it on the internet, over. Done. The risk was just way too high. And in its place, a new era began.
The licensing boom. Suddenly, everybody was scrambling to sign deals and actually pay for their data. And we are talking about serious money here. The market for licensing AI training data is already worth a few $billions today, but it's projected to explode like more than 10 times that in the next decade. Paying for data isn't just an idea anymore, it's the new normal. So, where does this leave us? What does it all mean for the future? Well, as one massive battle ends, a new one is really just getting started. Look, the big takeaway from this whole Anthropic saga is actually pretty simple, though incredibly expensive. It doesn't matter how smart or brilliant your legal argument about transformative use is if your entire AI model is built on stolen stuff. The source, the provenance, that's everything now. You can think of it like this. This whole case was about the input problem, how you get your data. And the industry is now solving that by throwing money at it with these big licensing deals. But that just leaves the next massive hurdle, the output problem. What happens when an AI, even one that's trained on totally legal, licensed data, spits out something that looks suspiciously like an existing copyrighted work? That, right there, is the next legal battleground. And it's already happening. You see cases like the one the New York Times brought against OpenAI that are focused squarely on this output problem. So while the AI world might have just dodged one existential bullet, the next, and maybe even more complicated legal war, well, it's already here.